Greetings and welcome to Office Hours with Dr. G. I am so glad that you could keep our appointment. Special show tonight, you guys.
Yeah.
I got him back here. I know you want to hear him. You don't want to hear me. But that's okay. You're going to hear a little bit of me and a whole lot of the knowledge being dropped by this phenomenal, I don't even know what to call him, a returned ancestor from way back when, who's making waves all over the internet, and everybody who hears him and who what he says begins to resonate in their spirit, can't get enough of him. And we are privileged and honored to have him back here with us tonight. But before we get started, just want to say, and who is it? You know it's Rod Hayes. But the disclaimer is that the views and opinions expressed by the hosts and guests of official House of Reawakening Minds, Office Hours with Dr. G, and Dr. G is official, are not necessarily those of the House of Reawakening Minds platform. Content presented is for general information and educational purposes provided in good faith. We make no representation or warranty of any kind expressed or implied regarding the accuracy, adequacy, validity, reliability, availability, or completeness of this information. But y'all know it's coming straight from the source. So, without further ado, I would like to present once again to my viewing audience and you new ones who are just joining us, Brother Rod Hayes. But I want to make sure before I bring him on that you press that like button, you press that share button, and you subscribe if you have not already done so. Come on, you want to hear him? And there's thousands of other people who want to hear him. So before we get started, come on, press like, press share, and subscribe. Without further ado, I want to bring to Office Hours Brother Rod Hayes. How you doing, my brother?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful now that you're back on here. So good. Glad to have you back. I know that you were here just about 10 days ago. We got a little feedback about 10 days ago of over 24,000 views on that video that we did. And tonight, hey, you got carte blanche to share with us what it is that you are bringing. More. We see you on, your own platform, and we've seen you on, other platforms. But I am honored. We are honored to have you here on the official House of Reawakening Minds platform. You got a place here anytime you want to come on here, my brother. So tonight we are calling this particular presentation "What's Done in the Dark." And you know what they say about what's done in the dark. They say it's always going to come out in the light. So without further ado, it's funny because when I have my guests on, normally, I'm giving all kinds of background about who they are, where they come from, what they did, who their mama was and their daddy was, and what schools they went to, and all of this stuff. But I saw something that you posted, and I'm not sure if I could quote it exactly, but it says something about worthy is he or something who recognizes who you are before you even reveal it to him. And I got chills when I saw that because I recognized something, and I was calling you, I pegged you the record keeper. And then I heard a video that you did, an interview you did with Brother Rich on Black Magic 363, and honors to him for all of the wonderful guests that he brings on. But he asked you a question, and he said, is Thoth, has he returned? Has he reincarnated on the earth? And you said, most definitely. He asked you whether or not he was in multiple, that energy was in multiple beings. You said no. he asked you, well, is he in just one being? You said yes. He said, do you happen to know who he is? And you said you're talking to him, or you're looking at him, or something like that. And I was like, I knew it, and I hadn't seen that video at the time when I knew that you were the record keeper. I knew that you had been entrusted with, whether we're talking about the Akashic records or what. I knew that what you are bringing is from the, ancient of days. And as I've looked at more and more of your presentations, and as I've had conversations with you, I realized that while some folks have questions, and I've gotten phone calls this past week since you were here. Well, what did he mean about this? And what did he mean about paperwork? And what did he mean about this? And is he against Grand Sheik because Grand Sheik says this and that? And I still recognize you for who you are. So tonight, I'm honored that you're back here, and that you're back. When I say back here, I'm talking about back here from where you started, and back here on the platform also.
I appreciate you, Dr. G. We're going to start out the gate. My mama used to say was don't come out in the washing, we're going to catch it in the rinse. And she said, don't worry about it, baby. What's done in the dark going to come to the light. And my big mama told her he ain't going to leave no stone unturned. So with that, we're going to start with, do I disagree or agree with Grand Sheik Taj Tariq Bey? Let's get this out in the open. This brother been doing this over 50 years, all wise, right, and exact. Everything he been telling them was how to successfully navigate the contract and not be a victim to the society. They ignored him. They asked him to define the same fucking words every week. He give them the same definition. He gonna tell you the same definition for black today that he gave you out of the Black's Law Dictionary in 1975. It's gonna be the same definition, right? Black is a status in law. Black is the color of a crayon, but black ain't the color of a people, right? Now, the thing about the information in the contract is contracts expire. Once the contract expires, if you proceed with navigating an expired contract, this is called the resurrected contract, right? Now, I'm trying to put the contract to rest once and for all, because they said that we was going to be all imbeciles, unfit to manage our own affairs before gods and men. This was their complaint. Papal bulls in the 1300s rendered us as chattel property anywhere they find us on the earth, specifically the ones that we call the earthborn, right? Those are the daughters of earth who birth children on earth, and they from the earth. Organic to the earth, the same as a tree. Organic to the earth, the same as wolves, bears, and coyotes. We've been here so long that we don't need, here wasn't here before we was here, because we had to build it. What Elijah say? The maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, God of the universe. The spirit of that original one returns. The grand architect, they call him Hiram in the Masonic Lodge. Master of masters, the self-raised master. That means he got PhDs, but he ain't got no degrees, because he taught it to himself. A self-raised master. The situation we faced with me and Taj is his contracts that he was telling people how to navigate expired on July the 4th, 2019. The government acknowledged it when they did the Republican convention with no flags. Right? Now, there's some steps that has to take place for us to restore balance to the land and to the people. In other words, to bring justice to earth. right? To bring justice to earth, it is required of us to give everybody what they earn, good, bad, or indifferent. If they earned it, they own it. Period. Right? So this way that can't nobody else claim who and what you are but you. Right? Now, since the contract expired, the action must be taken for one who understands where's the key to America. It's in the dollar bill. The contract between the Treasury and the Treasurer of the corporate jurisdiction and the organic usurped people who didn't make the contract to begin with. Right? So now, in 2015, an Alaskan judge, which I had sent you some paperwork on her, she filed a claim to dismantle the legal fiction, what Taj calls the de facto jurisdiction. Right? Now, and this in turn inspired the 2017 Indigenous Rights Act. The Indigenous Rights Act says that if the government, the corporate legal fiction, the de facto fall, the de jure at any given time can exercise a right to all what they call in their paperwork Indian territory, Indian land. Well, all this shit Indian land, right? And the only thing that wasn't was what they called the crime scene. It's a 10 square mile in an overlapping jurisdiction called Washington, D.C. It's no longer called D.C., it's just Washington now. The only way that we can reclaim that land is we had to stake a claim, literally. So to match the 400 years bill that was passed on the Senate to acknowledge the 400-year-old totem pole that replaces the de facto jurisdiction has to be planted in DC. I sent you that. And so the next thing that we have to be aware of is that we have to replace admiralty jurisdiction with the jurisdiction of the land, right? So we under admiralty law operating as a legal fiction on the crash site. The Plymouth, the good ship Plymouth, we know it to be called the Mayflower in our history books. Well, the Mayflower is getting his ass picked today. The Plymouth is what Malcolm was talking about when he said we didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us. He's talking about the good ship Plymouth that we now call the Mayflower that we picking right now. So the allegation in the world court is that we crashed our landmass into the Plymouth while she was marrying along her merry way through the dream, right? Roll, roll, roll your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. That's what they was telling them. We was about our merry old way. Who is Mary? The rebellious woman is what the translate says. So when they call her Mary, they mean the rebellious woman. What did she do that was rebellious? Don't none of them know. They tell you right in their good book that they used to undermine us. She went and gave birth to a parthogenic son without the motherfucking permission of no masculine gender. Because they the jealous God, Yahweh. He get all up in his emotions about stuff because he can't control himself. He want to kill off whole villages and then call you evil because you kill one person to protect yourself. Double standards. Don't that sound like patriarchy to you? I can tell you when they came in, where they came from, how they came, how they got here, how they usurped us. I could tell you who all of the dirty players was going back into antiquity because they play the same game in a repeating loop in Anunnaki warfare in their family feuds. And it don't have nothing to do with the earthborn. They always tell us about the war in heaven, and then the angels came down here, got cast to the earth. That means that shit that was going on somewhere else didn't have nothing to do with us down here. Right? Because if it had something to do with us, it wouldn't have took place in heaven, it would have took place on earth. So the war in heaven spilled over on earth, angels and demons. But if you don't know the angle of the light, then you can never see the angels of the light. And the angles is all measured with navigation tools, the navigation equipment, the compasses and the squares. The masons measure the ground, but the scopes of the navigator measure the stars. And you can have the 360 and can be a operative mason on the ground, but you can't build universes if you can't navigate the stars. Right? If you can't navigate the stars, where are you going to put your universe? Because you don't even know where is the spot for your universe to go. So you got to be able to navigate the stars, as above, so below. When you can navigate the earth and the stars, that's called a 720. Right? And then when you can see it from the dark side and the light, that's called a 1440. So this is the sciences. This is what Noble Drew Ali had to go get the secrets out so we even know who we up against. Because they lied to us about who we was, where we came from, and how we got here. But Noble Drew Ali said time never was when man was not. What that mean? We was existing before they construct that they call time. What is time? But a grand illusion of the dream. But you won't never know that because you have to have time in order to know when to create. That's so that your creations can be held within a structure in a geometric formation, Metatron's cube, the tree of life, the Kabbalistic keys, right? From Malkuth to Kether. How you going to get from earth to heaven if you don't got a map? We wasn't born with no books. We had to figure it out. Somebody had to teach the blind so they could begin to see. Right? So Big Mama told me, just continue doing what you're doing, and you're going to have naysayers. That's because they're going to be naysayers until they become knowers. Right? Once they know, they can't naysay no more. All they can either do is agree or remain silent.
So what I'm doing, Brother Rod, is I'm clicking on their questions and comments in the chat, so that at some point, so that we can maybe before you get too far in, because we talked about how folks have stuff to say one way or another, and I know you don't have a problem addressing folks' concerns. So if you don't mind, yeah. So if you don't mind, before we get too much further, I'm going to put up the very first one, and I'm not trying to shout anybody out because I've starred quite a few just so I can catch them. This first one says that Rod can't show and prove anything. So why does he get so much love, especially that Larry Hoover foolishness?
Look, let me answer.
Yeah,
they ain't looked on my page because if they'd have looked on my Facebook and YouTube, I got receipts up to Wazoo going back 3 years. So they obviously didn't do their due diligence. This is what I be talking about. When we are a group of peaceful people gather together, they always send some low-ranked new convert that don't really know nothing to look like an ass by trying to disrupt the flow. Everything I say, I got receipts for. It's been proven.
Okay. Let me put it. And this one just basically says, how do we restore justice if they have frequency weapons? And I know you haven't got into that, but I'm trying to get these early questions out of here so that we can move on.
Where do you think frequency weapons come from?
Uh, Tell us, please.
Listen, if they just came from tube TVs to digital capacitors in the last 40 years, they're about 2 million years behind us. Energy weapons, we've been using them for eons. They all in the hieroglyphic paintings. They telling you that they a staff or they give it some other name. They energy control mechanisms, and we can control the energy however we want it to flow.
Would the issue be that we, meaning just say us in general, have lost that knowledge, the remembrance of those things? Therefore,
No, we got temporary amnesia, but all of us don't got amnesia. It's still all of this stuff. Technology is suppressed by the government because we was at war. They had control of everything we did. That's why you got entertainers that make millions and hundreds of millions of dollars and die broke. It's the same with scientists. It's no different. We've been being exploited at every level. But now, when justice is established, it's when you get rid of the exploitation. And the only way to get rid of it is to give everybody exactly what they earn, good, bad, or indifferent. No favoritism. Give them what they earn. If they earn their head to be severed from their body, give it to them. If they earn heaven on earth, give it to them. Only you can determine what heaven on earth is for you. Because you came here to navigate your karma so that you can produce your best life from the resolution of the karma. If you don't resolve the karma, you have a complicated life trying to figure it out. But can't nobody do it for you because that's what you came here for. We came here in the university. Over time, we were supposed to learn how to resolve our karma from past lives so that we can reach higher levels of attainment in this life. But some of us don't get it.
Okay. So here's, I'm gonna pull up another comment. So it's July 4th, 2019, huh? If Christopher Columbus founded North America with Puritans, you telling me Moors wanted on the ship, the dock, or the colony?
Christopher Columbus was a Tawny Moor, and his navigator name was Pedro de Negro. Look him up. He was a Blackamoor. They came over here as scouts in order to find out what the lay of the land was because they was getting kicked the fuck out of Europe.
We're talking about the Blackamoors, the Tawny Moors. So what explain the difference between them? And you say that Moors, the term Moor is a catch-all phrase, which kind of gets folks kind of twisted up, because do you consider yourself to be a Moor?
I consider myself to be organic to the earth. Firstborn of the earthborn. The term Moor is a catch term. Because when you translate a whole lot of stuff in the English, you can use more to mean more than one thing. That's a catch term.
For example,
the English word black, you can translate it as more when you're talking to a Portuguese or Dutch. The English, the word moire, the French word, is translated as more into English, right? Then you have the word morisco, which translates into English as more. You have the indigenous word from over here, amuru, Amuuru, which translates into modern English as a Moor, but it don't mean the same thing. They're not the same people. When you look in the Moorish literature and you hear Noble Drew Ali in the oral statements and prophecies saying that ain't none of the Moors gonna make it, they not paying attention. But he's not talking to the indigenous earthborn. He talking about the imposters. He knew what he was up against, but only the chiefs know how to read his codes that he wrote in his literature.
Who are the chiefs?
The chief right now that you have to refer to about Moorish literature is Angel Bay. That's Jeff Ford out of Chicago. He is the law enforcer of the land when we under the law of the land. So when we was under the Admiralty law jurisdiction of the sea, then he became a tyrant to the system. So they used their system to superimpose on our system and usurp our authority on the land using the COINTELPRO operations to take the chiefs off the land. They know what they're doing. We just don't know what we're doing, and we so busy bickering with each other about stuff we don't know that the ones that do know come tell you you don't want to hear it.
So when we talk about indigenous, autochthonous, Native Americans, Indians, tribes, and so forth, who are we talking?
Native American, right? Native American is that we before that. There were no Native Americans before 1492. There were no Indians before 1492. There were no Negroes before 1492. What happened in 1492? Columbus came to the so-called New World. And they came to establish something they call a New World Order. That's this, the tyrant America. That's not our government. That's our occupiers who's colonizing on the land, the squatters. They use the international squatter rights because when we all went to Florida fighting in the Seminole Wars, the Louisiana Purchase, they say we just abandoned our shit. So they start exercising squatters' rights to take control of our territories because of their protectorate agreement in the New Orleans Purchase. But we don't know nothing about that. So we won't never understand the fight of Empress Bardiassi trying to make them honor the treaty. They didn't even honor the full treaty. They made concessions on their fraud in the treaties. They never honored one treaty because we never signed one with them. All of those treaties was between them and their servants they brought over here with them.
Would that be like the Doss Road Moors or?
The Dawes Rolls were the Mongol, Hun, and Hindu servants that the Moors had conquered, the Etruscans who settled Rome. See, they got you thinking Rome was a pale-faced civilization and that all of those emperors was pale because the blackamoors who was running the show was in hiding. We know them in Egypt as the Amun priesthood, where it was worn with Akhenaten's Aten priesthood. But some of us haven't even done that due diligence to do that much research. But they're going to tell me I don't know what I'm talking about and I can't prove nothing. But I can tell you where to find it. All you got to do is go look. Right? So they've been usurping us from the time of Hannibal, when they sold him out in the Senate in Carthage, right? Because they look like us, but they ain't us. And they needed Rome to take world power. You think we in Rome now? Who alphabet we using? What's the name of the English alphabet? What's the real name of it? It's called the Roman alphabet, right? Right? What's the alphabet? Alpha, beta. That's Greek, ain't it? Rome conquered Greece. This is where they switched the divine feminine out for the sissy masculine. right? Specifically, Helen. When you look up Helen in the Greek pantheon, Helen is the daughter of the Greek god. When you look Helen up in the Roman pantheon, he became a son. What the hell they just do?
So
But who?
the door Helen became. I know they talk about Hellenistic periods and so forth, but you're saying that Helen became a son, or the son became a daughter.
They changed the gender. They call that taking the head of the goddess. In other words, cutting off Medusa's head.
Mm-hmm.
Remember?
Right.
They told you her dreadlocks were snakes. Right? And they told you that one look from her turns you to stone, right?
That's what they said.
Ask any dude in here when they see the finest chick that they ever seen before, and what they gonna do? They gonna be froze. And what's gonna happen? Took her kindness for her weakness, and now she gonna take your head. So it was 3 Gorgon priestesses of the Psi priesthood. Medusa is Medu, rank number 10, Psi, birth priestess. Alexander, the so-called great sissy ass, was Enlil's son that he put in power to turn into the greatest war hero on earth. That's why they call him Alexander the Great. But he ain't fucking with Hannibal. Muhammad Ahmed of the Sudan, undefeated in his 4 years of warfare before the ones that looked like us in his ranks poisoned his ass. The same way they so-called did Muhammad. If you know the story. But they all made up stories from Rome. See, Christianity was first. The Hebrew doctrine was written as a backstory because it couldn't be proven after the fact. And Islam was written as an alternate story, which can also be found in Greece, by the way, but we ain't gonna get into that. But the alternate story about Islam was to subjugate Allah, the divine feminine. They turned her from Allah to Allah when they add something called sun letters. You see the moon worship comes sun worship, and just to add another letters. The divine feminine is represented by the silver of the moon. Divine masculine is represented by the sun. When they say sun worshipers, they talking about the ones who worship the patriarchal takeover of the world and the subjugation of the divine feminine. Half of fag ass men pretending to be women. Look at the Catholic Church. You know I ain't lying. I ain't making this up. It's right here in front of our face on a day-to-day basis, but we so busy having our master teachers and our elders repeating themselves for 50 years because we don't get it. Right? So now that when something becomes outdated, it's expired. What happened to milk when it expired? Don't it go putrid?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, their contract is expired. Now it's about to go putrid. I mean, all this stuff, all they rot gonna have to surface. So when I tell you, they tell you I can't prove nothing, tell them to read the Indigenous Rights Act of 2017. It's gonna tell you they gave it all back, and none of you Moors knew it. They gave it all back in one document, and none of you Moors knew it because you don't know how to read Moorish literature properly. And then you wonder, do I disagree with it? He's been telling you right for 50 years. Very disrespectful to think I'm going to come in here and undermine what he was telling you was right when it was valid. What you think I was waiting on to come out and tell y'all for? Because long as he was telling you and he was right, I didn't have to say nothing. Now that the contract expired, somebody got to seize the land. And if you don't know the process, then you need to zip your lips and sit the fuck down and watch. They gave it all back. What did we have to do? We had to stake the flag of the land behind the Admiralty flag of their Admiralty jurisdiction and occupy the Senate. Why? Because the president ain't the fucking president. That's not the head of state. The Speaker of the House is. The president is the military leader. He's not the fucking political leader. You have to overthrow the political format. So they said he staged the insurrection. No, he just pulled his military back and told them to observe it. See what happened. Right? What happened? We sent the shaman in there using the same shit they used against us. We sent a pale-skinned shaman trained by one of the masters on the land to go occupy the desk, put his motherfucking Buffalo Soldier helmet on that they told y'all was Viking helmets, and sit there with his feet up behind the land, occupy the motherfucker, and sink the battleship, the good ship Plymouth.
This guy here, right?
Yep. That's Buffalo Soldier headdress. That's the indigenous military branch from the land. Them what they called Buffalo Soldiers. He is a trained shaman from the land, and he just so happened to be a Marine Special Forces.
Wow.
That's the picture right there.
Yeah.
You see, you got the land flag behind the admiral. That's called seizing the vessel. If you knew your Moorish literature, you would know about seizing the vessel on the high seas. They said we crashed into their vessel. We had to seize the vessel back in order to settle our totem pole in DC. We have to now reclaim the land by staking a totem pole, because that's our custom. We don't have flags, we got totem poles. That's why you can't find our flag. Do you got that picture, Dr. G, of the totem pole being put up?
Was that
I think it's typed out in the one of the excerpts so that people could see. I ain't making this shit up. This shit is over with. This government is defunct. The whole corporate legal fiction has been torn down.
Here's okay. Let me see if this is it. Are we talking? Oh, wait a minute. I don't think that's a picture of a totem pole. What is this we got here?
It probably won't.
Well,
yeah, that'll care. Can you blow that up where they can see it?
I don't know if I can make it any bigger, but I can read it.
Yeah, read it to them.
It's a traditionally carved and intricately painted totem pole made from. Well, this is not the pole, but this is the description that went with the picture. Made from a 400-year-old red cedar trunk, arrived at the National Mall this week on its final stop of the Red Road to DC during a blessing ceremony Thursday. The pole was presented to Interior Secretary Deb Haaland, the nation's first Native American cabinet, I guess, member. I don't see all of it, but I don't see the actual picture. That's about it. So they brought one. You're saying they brought an actual totem pole to DC. It was symbolic of the taking back of the land, or what was
right it? Because we had once we got the flag, we have to also reclaim that 10 square mile that they listed as a crash site. That's what DC was. It was the crash site. That's why it was nobody's land. It was held up in abeyance to the resolution of the contract. They was the occupying force. We seized their flag. That's what you was looking at. We was seizing their flag. So it don't matter what they do from here, because the people just have to be aware that we in governmental transition. That's why I know ships is moving. And for the last 2 years, they have slow moving on the ships. The docks are closed because we in transition of government. That's the phase we at. That's why you keep hearing the white hats and the QAnons talking about Trump about to be the 19th president, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he was 45. He gonna go from 45 to 19. What is they talking about?
What are they talking about?
The Continental Congress, the Iroquois Confederation of Nations that was undermined by the contract written in the blood of Crispus Attucks, right? So they lied on us, told us George Washington was pale skinned. That's Albert Pike with a shaved beard. Masonic, 32-degree Scottish Rite, Freemason. Morals and dogma was the way that they would push the agenda. Can you see through the deception? The Mossad motto, by way of deception, we shall wage war. Who wrote that shit? That's the motto of the Tudors. Who is the Tudors? The Etruscan royal family of Europe.
And are they melanated?
They call them Moors. When you go look them up and you look up the word JEW, Moors, and you're gonna have brooches with pictures of them, where the fake royal family ride around with their deity, God, King, on their lapels. That tells you whose power they under. We laugh at them and think that they using us to make mockery of us, but they not knowing. They telling you whose hand is ruling their life.
I remember there was a big to do when Meghan Markle it was announced that she was marrying Harry, and one of the cousins wore one of those pins with the with the more on the front, and the Queen acted as if, because everybody was in uproar, the Queen scolded her allegedly all the time, knowing what that really meant, that was not disrespect, but it was honoring who they were under.
Well, look at the Pope. When he get around and he kiss their feet.
I've seen some pictures of that happen.
Now, the Pope is the one that instituted the white man's burden. Rudyard Kipling wrote it in a poem to glorify it. They sent King Leopold sent Cecil Rhodes to the Congo to enforce it. They divided up Africa in the Berlin Conference in order to enforce it. But the people behind it all look like me and you. Skin tone wise, hair texture wise. Well, some of them got straight curly hair, but a lot of them got woolly hair like me and you. Mm. They hide out in places like Switzerland. That's why Switzerland don't be in no wars. If you was running the show, you wouldn't want no war where it can touch you, would you?
Oh, of course not.
Okay.
Of course not.
See, now our job, when they came over here, our job, anybody come on our land, we immediately supposed to absorb whatever they bring so they can't use it against us no more.
Because so you're talking about like customs,
all of it, customs, traditions. Ours not gonna never change. We gonna be able to find our customs and traditions no matter what anybody else bring over here. Right? My tribe, old Mississippians, right, is the ones who know that Miss Isis is on pie. That's 3.14. But when you smash it all together, it just say Mississippi.
Okay. Okay. All right. So that's what it stands for.
That's what it say.
Well, like, okay.
It's all of the scrambling of the words that they do,
Mhm.
right? Like they changed the name Washita to Washington, right? They took the Shawnee and turned them into the Shaw clan. Now they call themselves Shaw, right? That's their last name now. And some of the other names they changed. The Jackson was a whole clan.
Jackson.
Jackson is a whole clan. It was a whole clan. But they didn't pronounce it Jackson. It changed over time with the linguistic transformation. Michael Jackson was literally Michael, Archangel Michael.
Somebody had asked in the question and comments I was going to get to about where does Michael come in? And I didn't say Jackson. I'm assuming they meant Archangel, Archangel
So
Michael.
yeah, and everybody think Michael Jackson was a singer. He was a soldier. They tried to kill him when they set his hair on fire, and he needed all them plastic surgeries because of how bad he was burned, which sparked his pigment loss. That's all burn related.
So basically, I know we talked about this before. You were saying that his injuries were far more severe than they put out to the public.
Right. At first, they didn't want him to make it. If you remember, the first reports was they didn't think he was gonna make it. Then the second reports then started getting less and less severe, and now it was just he burned the top of his scalp because they didn't want nobody to know that one, they tried to murder him, and two, that he was one of the chiefs on the land and he incarnated down here to observe the problem from a certain angle. All of the chiefs come to earth were the angels in the atmosphere. We accumulate like electricity and form sparks when we born. And we can call higher and higher rank until you can't get no higher. But everybody got to get a chance to fix the problem before they call for the last resort. And even the ones that fucked it up, they couldn't even put it back together. So now they got to call for me, knowing I don't want no parts of this bullshit. I don't like playing in these foolish games of oppression, oppressor, subjugated, and subjugator. I ain't with that. You treat everybody the way you want to be treated. Right? When somebody try to get you to take part in their bullshit, call them on it. We don't want to do that. We'd rather go along with the bullshit than to correct our homie, keep him from fucking his life up. We're going to egg him on because we want to see some drama. We ain't following the rules of the land if we do that. Because the rule of the land say that if you know better and your brother don't know better, you obligated to teach him better. That's the law of the land. Each one teach one. We all going to reach some. So, some of them might think I don't know what I'm talking about. They can figure it out on the flip side, because I'm a stand right, be right, and gonna tell the truth no matter who don't like it. And even if I didn't agree with everything Grand Sheik Taj say, that don't mean I don't got love and respect for him for what he do. Because to stand in front of the people and keep explaining that shit the way he do, that's saintly right there. You can't label it nothing else.
Yeah, but I know that you do, and I didn't know that even in 2021 when he turned 75, you did a whole tribute to him. And which I recently saw, but it was when he turned 75. He's 76 now. Matter of fact, he was watching a video of yours. I'm trying to think. He was watching the Anunnaki video. He was here on Saturday for a little while, and he was watching the video, and I watched him watch it. And as you spoke with Brother Rich, he was, mm-hmm, I'm just watching him, looking at him, watching the video and seeing his agreement. Same with you. He doesn't 100% agree with absolutely everything that he hears, but I would say 80% of what he was hearing, he was in agreement with his. He was. That's right. That's right. And I'm just watching him watch and listen and watching his interaction before we had to go. But what I'm saying is, you got, people want to take sides, and that's not what it's about. And that's why I do appreciate you. And I personally don't question who you are. I've never asked you, because I saw where somebody put in the comments. I don't know if here it is. I came right to it. Someone said that Dr. G's show has gone 360 in the opposite direction. I wish they would elaborate on what they mean, because first of all, as far as I know, 360 takes you right back to where you started from. So either you're saying that I'm doing what I did at the beginning, or are you? I don't know what it is you're saying, because I'm still in line with what my mission is. My mission is to bring forth truth, and so I bring forth a variety of people like yourself. But when what I hear resonates with me, like when I first heard you, and the first words that caught my ear when you said, you called him Tariq Bey. You didn't say Taj Tariq. You called him Tariq Bey. You said he's been saying this for like 40 or 50 years, and y'all not getting it. And I was like, my eyes perked up, my ears perked up, because it was positive. What you're saying is this man has been pouring his heart out for the longest time, giving you all truth. And that's the first time I ever, heard anything from you. So what resonates with me, y'all who are in the audience, and if y'all don't like not all of you, but if anyone does not like, the direction.
Everybody ain't supposed to like us, Dr. G.
That's right.
If we try to justify ourselves for everybody that don't like us, they got a right to not like us. Just Absolutely. Like we got a right to not give a fuck.
Absolutely. And that's
right. But they do have a right to not like us
and to disagree,
or to like us. They got a right to disagree. Yes. They got a right to ask for the receipts. But when I produce the receipts and you ain't looking at them, and you telling me I'm not proving that, that's because you're not doing your due diligence. You can't tell me what I'm not proving if you ain't looking at my receipts.
Now, if I brought someone on the show and I gave the description of this person, this individual rather, as a remote viewer, and I talk, if they understand what remote viewing is, the process, and they go, oh yeah, and they'd be all in it. But we didn't say that about you, even though you are a remote viewer. You are able to, just because I didn't want to read anything about your background, because I think for those with whom the truth resonates, they know who you are. Just like that piece that I saw on your page about the ones who know without being told, are the special ones. When you can recognize when truth, it's like how we recognize who Grand Sheik is. I recognize who you are. And so I didn't know anything about Thoth. I know about Thoth, but I didn't know about you being Thoth, although I just knew that you were tapped in to the records. And so when I put on the first thing, I said the record keeper. And that's what my my spirit guides and my inner self told me, that who you were. You didn't tell me. Mm-hmm. It came from another place. And so I'm bringing information up because for the most part, folks are confused. I think there's so many trying to get paperwork done and get status corrected. I get phone calls all day, every day about the same subject. Who do I go to? Can I get to this one? Can you give me a number for that? Should I do that? I don't know what you should do. Stand on who you are. You know what I mean? I don't, I can't tell you which one to go to, which one's better than the other, but you gotta have an inner knowing about what you are doing, because you got to go back and you got to make sure that you're doing your mission and fulfilling your purpose. Just like I said, you have to remember your purpose. Could you share with that on that? We talked about birth, and I just want to switch subjects a minute. We talked about being born the other day, and you're talking about Men in Black. Men in Black. When you see that movie, whenever you encountered in those movies, someone, the Men in Black encountered them, they flashed a light in their face, in their eyes, and told them, pretty much, it wiped away their memory. Could you explain to the viewers how that ties into our purpose and our us being born, and in the environments that we're born in purposely, what they intend to happen, and more often does happen because of how we're being born.
Right, because we supposed to be in an ambient lit room when we born. The extreme strain on the optic nerve from them bright lights in the delivery room shocks the psyche of the child to suspend his memory. Some of us never get it back because of society builds a false image of the self, and we call that the ego. It's like you're creating schizophrenia. They suppress the real you in order to mold you into what they need you to be to support their system. Right? And that's done in the delivery room. The delivery room is a whole catastrophe. It's like a car wreck, and it's made to look real clean. Because the child's not supposed to be severed from the umbilical cord before the colostrum sends the signal back to the mother that the baby is successfully suckling. What do that do? It interrupts something called pair binding at birth. The reason why the placenta released after birth is because it's saying that the child is successfully birthed, but it's not supposed to release until the exchange of colostrum, right? So the mother supposed to be breastfeeding, and this is when they make eye contact for the first time, and the child and the mother is exchanging that energy for that unbreakable bond. But instead, when they clip the umbilical cord, it sends the signal to the placenta to release because the baby was stillborn, which sends the message to the psyche of the mother, creating something called postpartum depression. Her psyche is telling her, why is you taking care of this baby? Your baby died. But in real life, the baby is here. They just clipped the umbilical cord, and she never properly pair bonded at the birthing cycle. This is why you need to bring back doulas and midwives and take delivery out of the hospitals where they doing this on purpose, because they already know this. You on mute, Dr. G.
I know that I'm sorry, I know that they're starting to put babies on the mother's breast right away. But what you're saying is that when they've done that, they've already clipped the umbilical cord too soon. So even though they call themselves bonding that way, it sends this message that the baby, like you said, it was stillborn. But does that also feed into the agenda of the child being dead, and then they create the fiction and all that stuff? Is that possibly why that's done?
It could very well play into that, because it's all harvesting of the energy. So they create these broken pair bonds so that it interrupts the mother's ability to go into full mother energy in her mind, which makes her harder to deal with. It makes her grumpy as she starts to get older. She become difficult to be in the room with. What we call them naggers. That incessant nagging and bitching for nothing. She miserable because she believes she done miscarried all these kids and then raised somebody else's child in their stead, but she don't even know why she miserable. So she's blaming everybody but the source because she don't know where it's at. They told us they was going to use every device of oppression that they could come up with in the most harshest manners, and that's worse than most of the other ones that we see, like people getting shot down in the street. At least they had a chance to start living their life. You ruined this child and his mother out the gate because you just didn't follow proper birthing protocol. If you look, some doulas advise women to leave the umbilical cord attached to the child so it can get vital nutrients and it'll separate naturally. But you can do it that way, but at the very minimum, the placenta will release after the colostrum hit the baby's stomach, send chemicals back through the umbilical cord, telling the mother that she gave a successful birth and y'all should pair. It's going to send a rush of oxytocin and beta endorphin in her brain that's going to link her to the child for life. You muted.
Yeah, I'm unmuting myself. Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to know that. Here's a question, a comment, or question/comment. I'm viewing the show from Guyana, South America. Appreciate the work both you and Brother Rod are doing. Question for Rod: how can we recognize the people today who defeated the Moors in 1492?
First of all, they didn't defeat the Moors. The Moors fought us to a stalemate, a ceasefire. Then the war went from being a physical conflict on the islands, northern regions of South America, the western portion of Mexico, and Florida. This is where the war was taking place. They told us we was in the South because they took us down there for slavery, but that's not true. We was in the South because we migrated from all parts of the country to go fight the war. So they marched those $5 Indians right past us, put them on reservations, and declared our land vacant. Right? It was abandoned property. So they exercised squatters' rights of the protectorate under the protectorate agreement of the French. But we didn't abandon it. They just backdoored us and undermined us, Jacobed us, Yakubed us.
Just to be clear, because most of us consider ourselves to be Moors, where we are Moors. So what we're hearing now is that we were not called Moors, and there was a comment in there about, I'll find it and bring it up. So what you're saying is we were here, which is the truth. We did not call ourselves Moors, although Moors did exist. They just were not. They were not us. Moors came in. I'm just trying to see if I'm
understanding. The word Moor was created in the 1500s as a catch term.
Okay, let me see. I saw a comment that said something about Moors were Moors before 1492, and that Moors came here. I'm trying to find your comment so I can bring it up. So when Prophet Noble Drew Ali did what he did, now we fast forwarding, why would he not call us who we were, or was he trying to do a universal sort of bringing us together, or if it was just for the ones on this landmass, why wouldn't he tell us who we really were?
He told you he was the Cherokee High Chief.
So
It's not a secret. He told us who we were, and he told us they call us Moors in law. If they call us Moors in law, the only remedy, remember, he didn't start a religious organization, he started a civics organization.
right.
Civics is how to run government. It's the protocols and procedures of government. He's telling us what they call, referring to us as in law. They brought the law over here. Those law books they're not copyrighted over here. That's the property of the Crown of England. That's the first thing we got to get. The second thing we got to get is we had feathers, not pheasants. Pheasants came from across the pond. We didn't have fat pheasants. We had feathers. We had some shit similar to pheasants, but we didn't have pheasants. Right? We was doing shit when Timbuktu was built, we already had old ancient universities on this side of the water. And you know, Timbuktu is probably one of the oldest universities still standing. Before Egypt sent somebody to settle Crete in 325 BC, we already had ancient settlements over here all over the land. We got castles all over the land. Right? A lot of the things that I tell people now, I needed to go find a reference so I can tell them and they don't have to rely on my word. So them all of the receipts I'm telling you that people need to be, if you want to challenge, you need to first review the receipts. Because if you don't understand what's taking place in real time and you really not watching the long game, let alone the whole game. You got flea flicker going off with pieces of information and data. But we looking and we getting stuck and taking sides with doctrine and dogma. Now remember, Albert Pike wrote Morals and Dogma. This is the challenge. Will your morals override our dogma? They don't believe that a morally upright individual would be able to see through their dogmatic indoctrination of the masses. They gave us school. We didn't have schools in no enclosed space. We used something called the open air method. They use what's called the four walls method because it restricts how far the mind is willing to travel.
Isn't it something with the square, corners that, we were used to rounded and open spaces and round spaces.
Right.
Those are we live in stuff that is very restrictive and constrictive also, and that was done by design.
The modern classroom is a Skinner box fixed with Pavlovian response mechanisms. If you read
about like Pavlov's dog,
yeah, the bell is a triggering mechanism. And if you read B.F. Skinner and about his Skinner box, he fucked his daughter up with that shit. But the Skinner box is designed for behavioral modification, right? So when you mix the Skinner box and you mix the Pavlovian response system, you create a perfect inmate. Now, I talked to Dr. Neely Fuller. He said the only way you're going to figure out what's going on is you got to look at this whole project on Earth as a big old prison. And you got to look at it like you're the warden. Because if you don't look at it like you're a warden of a prison, you won't never understand what's going on. The funny thing about a warden of a prison is he don't walk the yard every day, but he know everything going on in his prison. Because there's some inmates going to make sure he know everything that's going on in his prison. So if you watch the inmates in the asylum, then you will see them expose what's going on in their prison. You know, you got to know why the caged bird sings.
Interesting. Let me see if we can get another comment, question. Don't mind, because I like that you like to have questions. Okay, here's a question from Blissing. Dr. G, last week you brought up the Trois de Danann. I LMO. Like I don't know what that means. LMO. This is Trump's long claim. I mean, does that make sense?
I'm not really sure what they're talking about.
Me neither. I know that we talked about the Trois de Danann as what became what we know as like the elves and the gnomes and the little, but these were I had I don't know whether you were doing the class or doing a presentation with the about the Anunnaki, but apparently the Trois de Danann was if you read the stories about the Inky and Enlil and the original beings that they had as workers in
They're
Africa.
called Lulu Amalu.
Were they also the same? Would they would be the same that we would call? Because I know the Trois de Danann were in maybe Ireland, as far as I.
Well, you got to look wherever there was minds at, there was the little people, right? And that's because they was able to handle the heaviest workload because of their mass. They
Mhm.
carried less mass, which allowed them to hold high energy for longer periods of time. Yep.
And they were the ones doing the work until they realized or they felt like they needed to have a bigger, taller. What is it? I mean, if that mass made it good, why did they? Why were there other beings that ended up
They're
being?
from other places. Like, for instance, the Dogon is from Sirius, right? But the Zulu is earthborn. But they earthborn from the line of Enki, whereas those earthborn over here is the line of thought.
Oh, okay.
Then those was born to Europe and Asia was the closest to Isis because this was her land all the way to what we call modern Australia. That's Isis land, right? So if you don't know how it was divided up before Enlil came, you will never understand the family feud. You once you know the family feud, then you can see, okay, this who did that. Now, yep, that's typical of him. Yep, I figured he was gonna do that. Hindsight 2020, right? So when you see it taking place, or when you seeing precognitive what happened, you might have an idea, but when you look back on it, you be like, it's just like I thought it was, or it ain't nothing like I thought it was. Right? Hindsight, you can see it best. So that's why it took so long for me to come, because everything I had to look back on everything. Got to look back on everything to see how everything played out, so I can know who did what, where were they at.
And when you say it took so long for you to come, you're talking about through the ages, because obviously you've been here for as long as you've been here in this incarnation. But then I guess it take time to figure out who you are, to no remember who you are and what your assignment is. How does one how can those of us that are listening to you remember why we're here? Are there any processes that steps that we should be taking, or is there something that we should be doing to activate our remembrance?
Yeah. Don't wait till you die for your life to flash before your eyes. Visit it on purpose, because your training for your purpose has been what you've been doing your entire life. You just didn't know you was being trained by spirit. Spiritually, you knew this shit was gonna be over when I pop up. Physically, you ain't had no fucking clue who I was. When you match the two, when you allow yourself to physically accept what you already know spiritually, you don't need nobody to tell you shit after that. But most of us try to turn that spiritual side off. Return to drugs and alcohol and escape mechanisms to try to get that voice out our head telling us, how to fix things in our life and others. Rather than do the work and dive into that voice, well, who is you? Where you come from? How you gonna help me out? We run from it. Well, I didn't run from mine. And I followed wisdom wherever I saw it. That's just the nature of who I am. I don't care about their bullshit. That's why I say they got a right to not believe me, think I don't know what I'm talking about, and I got a right to not give a fuck. They got a right to be wrong, and I got a right to stay right. Long as I'm telling the truth from the position of right, mama said I can't lose. Organically tied to the land, I'm right. I was already here. Right? Collectively among the tribes of this land, we was already here. We ain't come on no slave ships. Some people came on ships though. But it's not the collective of who we are. We got to remember, a lot of us don't know our proper history, so we don't know that we used to send supplies to all of the islands. They didn't have to work labor-wise like they do now because we took care of the islands because that's where we resorted and they were our hosts. When we went to the islands, they took care of our every need. So we made sure that they every need was met. Mutual reciprocity. When the invaders came, they cut us off from the islands to strangle the island people out. Your Taino, your Arawak, the indigenous people to Jamaica and Haiti look just like that, been looking like that for thousands of years. You can't infiltrate them if you don't look like them. They'll see you a mile away. And they ain't scared of you. The only thing is they can act like us, but they ain't us. Because very few of us know how to tell the difference at our level. I've been able to see these motherfuckers since I was a baby. But I didn't know how to tell nobody. I had to try to figure out, let me learn psychology so I could put it in psychological terms. That wasn't enough. Let me study history, I could put it in historical terms. That wasn't enough. So I learned legalese to put it in legal form, and that really pissed me off to find out that the white man ain't white. My feelings was hurt to find out that they look like us. But they can't be us. They ain't us. They don't move like we do. So then now when I start putting the pieces together, they kicking and screaming, sending the ones with the least amount of research hours under their belt to get their head cracked because they don't know what they're talking about. But you got to learn some kind of way. So some of us got to bump our heads into a wall.
Here's a question. Good evening. Is the rhyme 369 that children recited in the 60s when jumping rope related to the reclamation of melanated people in America that is occurring now?
I don't remember that whole nursery rhyme. But most of the nursery rhymes is directly tied to us because we was the ones who used nursery rhymes as tools of teaching. So it's a message in there, and 369 mean turnaround.
I think they're talking about this one that just said something like 369, the goose drank wine, the monkey chewed tobacco on the streetcar line, the line broke, the monkey got choked, and they all went to heaven in a little rowboat or something like that, if I remember that back then. But I don't know what that would have had to do with.
I vaguely remember it, but I'm gonna look it up when I get off because it sounds like it's telling us something that took place on the land. When they
Okay.
say that we say the monkey, the duck got drunk.
No, the monkey chewed tobacco on the streetcar line, and the line broke. The monkey got choked, and they all went to heaven in a little rowboat. So it was like, I don't know. I don't know.
Look, there's a big monkey symbol on the ground in I think it's Arizona, New Mexico, and next to it is the great thunderbird. Right, that's the blueprint.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I was listening to you. If it said the beginning of it was somebody drunk wine,
Goose.
369, 369, the goose drunk wine.
Mm-hmm. And then there was a
Right.
monkey. Yeah. So I don't know.
Mm-hmm. We read the bird tribes read the birds. Like yesterday, I was on the dock and I got a video of 7 geese in the gaggle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the 7 geese in the gaggle, gaggle represents a group of women chattering, the 7 sisters talking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then a little later on, it was 7 birds, but it was 4 geese, 3 ducks. That's a duck, duck, goose on the turnaround off a flip, right? So it's a game of duck, duck, goose.
Mm-hmm.
Who it? Right? So it was 4 geese and 3 ducks. That means that the geese won, right? And the geese, so the geese is representative of the chattering females when they call them a gaggle. And the 7 sisters, right? And the 4 represents the 4-corner shuffle, which is 4X chromosome. This is a female. And
Okay.
then the 3 ducks, right, represent the 3X chromosome, which is the male. So the women win. In the game of 4-corner shuffle, they beat out the winner of the game of 2-ball cane. 2-ball cane is the game that the fathers use to teach the sons, and 4-corner shuffle is the game that the mothers play.
Okay.
But sometimes she uses a cat's paw.
Explain, please.
Cat's paw is a term that means using somebody else's hand to help her teach. They use all these things militarily against us that's straight out of our culture. So if you don't know what they're saying, then you don't understand the language of the land. That's why when you say the goose got drunk.
Monkey got drunk. It was a monkey that got drunk. But in any event, yeah, so they used the symbols that the sim is what you're saying. Sometimes nursery rhymes, just like songs, they say were used, but I'm skeptical about some of these things because most of the songs were tied to slavery and escaping and symbols, and so now we have to question that whole oh, my light went out. We have to question that whole dynamic of whether things actually happened the way we were told.
They didn't. They told us the story in the manner that they can keep us most under control. Once you realize that you are organic to the land, you ain't controllable no more. That's what the problem was.
And you're not saying that all of the things that go along with recognizing or claiming who we are, our status, and you're not saying that that's not true. You're just saying that our identification of as to who we were when we was covered over by the catchphrase was that we lost our individual what you call them
Tribal names.
tribal names. No, but we were not Indians, but we had tribes. Correct?
Yeah.
So you're not saying we were Indians, but we did have tribes. Tribes and Indians have been put together by the the colonizers,
Yep.
one and the same.
Yep. But the tribes in our community, they don't call them tribes, they call them gangs. So you control the narrative. You can make the villain who you want, and you can make the hero who you want.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The the skinheads don't get the same treatment as the vice lords until they get locked up. Right? Now, the natural leaders to the land is not going to want to take part of this legal fiction system. We're going to organize in what they call the streets, which is the concrete jungle. If you don't know the laws of human nature, then you're wasting your time trying to figure it out. It's a process going into from adolescent to elder that you have to go to. And once you become an elder, you have to be met so many criteria in order to establish yourself as one of the elders that's ranked on the land.
Rites of passage.
Rites of passage. Life is going to teach you whatever you need to know to become who you're trying to become. It's in your book of life. Most of us don't know how to read it, but we have to review our life every so many years in order to even know what we're doing. But we don't do that. We just go along to get along, follow the carrot.
How do we get to our book of life?
You have to review your life.
Review your own like look back over your life and
try to remember much of it as you can. What's your skill set? What's your natural interest versus the job that you forced to take? Right? Because both of them is going to serve your greater good in the end if you use it to your advantage. But if you don't use it to your advantage, your enemy is definitely going to use it to your disadvantage. Ain't no doubt about it. And the word devil is mean enemy, adversary, opponent, the one that's against you. But if you become your greatest opponent, then there's nobody that can compete.
Wow. You mean your lower self can overtake your higher self and be the victor in your life and defeat your purpose.
Yeah.
Well, that's deep when you think about it, because we always want to be able to point the finger, as to who is keeping us from being all that we can be, and nobody ever wants to admit that it is we ourselves that is our biggest obstacle.
Dr. Malachi says best, the helping hand you're looking for is at the end of your own arm. Right? I can get it from the dirt, Dr. G. I'm not in this for the money. I don't ask for no money. I'm in this for the people to wake up, see what's going on. This government is over with when we realize, and enough of us at Grassroots realize that it's over with. The documentation is present, right? We went over the process and the steps. I told them where to look to find it at, right? But if they don't look, they can't tell me I don't know what I'm talking about, because they never looked where I looked. You're going to tell me I can't find it over there, and you ain't never looked over there, and I've already been, and I know it's there. This is how they act. This is how they behave.
Well, Tariq Tark Bey says that you are taking us away from our nationality and birthrights. I don't think that's what you're doing.
No. First of all, the nationality, you have to be a legal fiction to be a member of a nation. All nations are corporations. Anybody that's registered to a corporation is registered as a straw man and a legal fiction. So birthright supersedes nationality. My birthright is organic to the land. Fuck your nationality. You can keep it. I don't need a legal fiction. I'm not an imbecile in law. I can't go to a lesser jurisdiction to validate who I am when my jurisdiction is superior. I'm in the de jure capacity, they in the de facto capacity. I can't file nationality with a defunct corporation and resurrect the dead contract. They out of here. They stronghold and they grip on the people is over with. It's just enough of us haven't realized that we the beneficiaries to the birthright of the earth rights. And the beneficiaries to the earth rights is the heirs to the earth itself. And it starts with the raising of the matriarchy and the restoring the chiefs on the land. So if you feel like that's depriving you of your nationality, then you can have your nationality. You have that right. But remember when you hear me tell you, if you do that paperwork, you committing yourself to become a servant of a superior jurisdiction. All nations are governed under uniform commercial code. The law in this country tell you that all law is commercial. If it's commercial in nature, then why is they putting your ass in prison? Right? Because you don't know that you're the collateral for the commercial instrument in which you filing as an adhesion contract, whether it's nationality or not.
So here's another question that kind of, I guess, could kind of bunny tail or back on that is, can you say more about why we do not need to put quote unquote them on notice? Does this apply to
They
all
are
all administrative processes?
no. They you put them on notice by public declaration in a recordable format where it can be time stamped. You don't file paperwork with them. You make a declaration as a sovereign. It's a sovereign declaration of your sovereign rights, and you the only person that can establish that.
So when you say sovereign, because now that a lot of folks, when they call us sovereign citizens, that has that, we're that
Yeah,
denotation.
that's that UCC1 Uniform Commercial Code. Only the paperwork is the trick. That's why it's not working for them. All paperwork is a paper chain. They brought the paperwork. We use oral tradition. Oral tradition is required of us to make it known by public notice where it can be archived. This is why we used to have a guy in the town square read public notices for 8 hours a day because the public notices had to be placed in the public domain. They put everything in books and hide them on shelves to bury the lies. I just dug them up. Tell y'all where they at.
Now here's another comment. Grand Sheik said that what he is teaching would not be used by us in the future. It was taught to make us competent, but most of us are still incompetent to this day.
I can't do nothing but agree with that. And the Grand Sheik he talking about is Noble Drew Ali.
Well, he's actually talking about Grand Sheik Tashariq Bey too, because he has said that. He says that this is what we're doing today is not what we're going to be doing later on. It's not even he always says you are the paperwork when it comes to like the nationality or nationality, your birthright. You have to he said do the paperwork. I've heard him say it. Do the paperwork and put it in your file. He didn't say don't give it to them. That's for you to be competent to be able to make your declarations and proclamations as to who you are. I never heard him tell somebody to go take it somewhere, but others have said that. So it's confusing for many, and I want to get clarity on that. So in response to Tanya Taylor question, you're not saying that any paperwork, nothing should be done, but you're saying when it comes to who you are, you don't need to validate have a de facto government or whoever they are, validate who you are because they're fiction or fraudulent. Is that what you're saying?
They can't validate you. This is only thing can happen is this. If they are not in the position to be able to validate you, they can't validate you because they're already a legal fiction. You going to them, telling them to validate you, right? You're an imbecile in law, and you just proved they case over your incompetence, make you a ward of the court.
Well, how do you just simply put them on notice? How do you put them on notice? How do you put everybody on notice?
You make a public declaration in an archivable format,
Say like
such
something
as
that's
such
right.
as social media,
So
because you can because it's time stamped and dated. Anything that you do by public notice on social media is considered sufficient public notice. If 1,000 people can see it from your general area unrestricted, that means that if your page not made private, then you make your declaration yourself.
if that's the case, then you can also go to Scribd and you can upload your paperwork on Scribd, and now you got millions of people can see it because it's on Scribd.
It's archivable format.
Right.
But you got to make sure that you mention that it's a public notice.
Right. So this is clarity because you're not saying don't do it. You're saying don't send it to them.
Yeah, they can only or anything business you do with them is an adhesion contract. Any business you do with them at all. But on the land, all of us around the land, we can take any control of the land by general consensus of agreement between us. So we first have to have the sensibility to assert our sovereign self, our five-fifth realized self, right? Our full God body. You have to know what you are in order to know what to present yourself as, right? When you incompetent in law, you three-fifth compromise at that point. You an imbecile in the ward of the state. That go back to the papal bulls we talked about earlier. White man's burden, the civilized and uncivilized world. The proof of your lack of civilization is the fact that you are an imbecile in law. You're not functional to take care of your own affairs. When you make it known in our culture under the oral tradition by public notice that you are competent, and in your competence you know who you is and you state your name you gave yourself. Most people don't ever change their name. You don't have to. You can accept that name and use that name to establish your sovereign capacity, but you can't file it with the enemy. Anything you file with him verifies that you're an imbecile and puts you back under his jurisdiction and resurrect the dead contract.
So that's what an adhesion contract is.
Yeah.
Actually sending it to them, not
Right.
publishing it somewhere.
But you don't know you contracting with them. That's what make it an adhesion contract. Because you don't know it's a contract. As long as you don't have to know it's a contract to sign a contract. Right? Because you already imbecile in law, they just gonna put the lien against the straw man based on your incompetence. Right? When before July the 4th, 2019, everything Todd said was applicable. Once the contract expired, now there's only one remedy. Cease and desist all business with the foreign entities on the land and send them into exile. There's no other course of action. But we the ones keeping them here by continuously following their false narratives. We feeding into their jurisdictional declaration of our incompetence. So as long as we showing our incompetence, They running the narrative as we slowly wake from our slumber. Again, oh, I get it now. They already been put on notice. I sent you a post I did earlier, and it said that Galactic C50 has sole jurisdiction of the living and the dead. That's the God force of the Earth realm. Galactic C50 covers the Earth realm. These people ask me if I'm competent. Ask them, did they know that? Right? They want to know if I know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
When Galactic seat 50, that's Thoth's seat. But it was originally the seat of Isis, the Queen of Heaven and Earth. But when she sat on it, it was Council seat 40.
Okay.
So now it's out of the 72 elders, we got 2 elder seats. We got 40 and we got 50 now. Because Thoth takes the seat that Enlil declared vacant, which is the father line birthright of the earth right. And we had no father line heredity on earth. That's when he assumed his jurisdiction. That's what he used to pull rank on Inky. So now that they didn't all of the elders, they see what's up. They know what's going on. Now we got to convince the grassroots, but we can't fear the opposition or the pushback because sometimes that's how they're going to learn. They're going to push back because they've been taught a certain way. So then I tell them what the real remedy is. Elijah Muhammad said, go to yourself and accept your own. Your own is the earthborn. It's 12 daughters of Isis, which is the 12 earth tribes. The 13th tribe is the tribe of Thoth that sits in Big Mama house. Because Big Mama want her baby boy close by. That's it. So he don't go nowhere till she tell him. But when she tell him, he don't leave no stone unturned. You know?
Let me see about any more comments. I'm learning how to get tough skin, y'all. There's just so many things that. So what must we do? And I know you're saying it. I don't want to treat you like we treat Grand Sheik. What must we do to redeem ourselves from the curse that we have been under, that we think we're under?
Right now, Dr. G, it's a matter of awareness, right? The ones of us that get it, we ain't explaining it to the ones that don't, right? It's just a few of us, like you called me on here to explain it to the people on your platform. But the people who don't know, you can't expect no help from them when they don't know. And the ones who get it have been through such harsh conditions, they're scared to go out for fear of being called insane to explain it. You know?
Yeah.
So again, that's why we got to take all of the questions, the good ones, the bad ones, the hard ones, and the easy ones, with the same grain of salt.
Yeah. So, because I think some of the things for some people may be a bit incredulous, because we're mixing things that happen on a galactic level. And there was a question. Oh my gosh, yeah, way back up here. My sister, I started, so I got to find it. I don't remember asking it, but it was Sister Bliss Singh.
So while you looking for that, Dr. G, the reason why it looked like it's galactic things going on and Earth things, because it's cycles within cycles, as above, so below. One mimics the other.
Okay.
right? So just like the war in heaven, heaven had to get cleaned up, right? After
Hmm.
the war was over. What
Right.
makes you think Earth don't got to get cleaned up after the war is over?
Is the war over? Or is it still is it
It's a
still?
wrap. It's a wrap. The only thing that's missing is grassroots awareness that the problem is resolved. That's the only thing that's missing. They've
Uh,
been put on notice. They didn't close down the borders. They changing over government in real time, and none of us ain't paying it no attention. So we don't know, and ain't nobody telling nobody. They're
you know
not
what?
telling them where to look. Under FEMA, you can find the continuity of government to tell you how it works. That's a FEMA document. FEMA is short for female. FEMA was a fuck up in all of them catastrophes because they had to get the training from somewhere. Disasters, that you can't get trained to handle disasters and you ain't never been through one. You got to experience it. And that was the different groups out of matriarchy that handles different things, learning how to process the whole of the government. What if the whole thing was a disaster at the same time? So if you don't know what the continuity of government documents say, and you don't know what the Indigenous Rights Act of 2017 say, and you don't know about the judge that filed the claim in filed the case in 2015, and you don't know about Trump going to get our gold certificate on our wealth back from the Philippines, if you don't know that he also closed down the Federal Reserve and the IRS, if you don't know none of this stuff, you just gonna be going along to get along with a system. But everywhere I just told you, you can go check it out. You ain't gotta believe me.
Is it like you know what I got the thought is like we're going through another Juneteenth situation.
Another what?
Juneteenth,
Yeah,
whereby
where it takes a period of time before some of us remember that
it's
that
all
they
we already free from this, but we still living like we're part of their jurisdiction, and under their subjugation.
it's worse than that because some of us is fighting with guns to stay on the plantation. We coming that hard to stay on the plantation. We don't want to give up massa. That's the sad part. They come out against the ones that know what's going on, and the ones that almost know they trick them to take sides with them. The
Wow.
dirty Moors know what I'm talking about. I'm only having disputes with the righteous Moors who was misled because they gonna defend that shit. The dirty Moors gonna go sit down and shut the fuck up. That's why I don't have no problem taking none of those hard questions. Because the only ones gonna speak up right now was the good Moors anyway. All the dirty Moors is in the background talking about, oh shit, the gig is up. We caught red-handed in our red shoes and in our KKK hoods. They know what's up. The good Moors, not so much. And the goodness in them gonna make them defend what they believe, even if it's dogma.
Mm,
Because their moral compass can be applied to that dogma.
that makes sense. Makes sense.
They weaponize you against yourself. That's why I be saying people sold out and didn't even get a dime for it. Because they don't know no better. Ignorance costs way more than you would ever give it credit for. But some say ignorance is bliss for a damn fool.
Wow. I'm still looking for the question, but here's another one while we're at it. That I start. Um, is Detroit a major energetic vortex that we can tap into for awakening positive ascension changes?
100%. It's a victory energy in Detroit from the uh, French garrison's failed to Chief Pontiac in Detroit on Belle Isle. And Belle Isle is a ritual place that we used to go to before they separated Canada from America. We came from the north to Belle Isle, and we used to, like, when they have Mardi Gras in New Orleans.
Mhm.
It was only a couple of weeks after where we would have the Belle Isle. It wasn't called Belle Isle then, but we would have a big feast on the island, and we would come by boat. We didn't have a bridge. We used to come by canoe and flatboat, right on over there to the island, and we barbecue and we dance and we laugh, tell jokes, all that stuff. The acoustics was so great on the island in the spot where we used to stand and sing. They built an amphitheater down there.
Hmm.
The acoustics was good before they built the amphitheater. They just tried to improve on what was already there. Just like from the top of Thoth's pyramid, when you hear the rest of the tribesmen that's wearing the feathers of the great thunderbird stomping they stomp, and they do it in sections, it sounds like that the thunder is rolling across the ground. You can literally feel the energy of the sound
Hmm.
as the sound waves move across the ground. But don't none of the ones that's questioning me know nothing about the Thunderbird Festival, who made it, why we made it, what we was doing with the ceremony. They don't know that. And they can't go pull up a book that tell them, but we can read it in that hieroglyphics down there. Just like I wrote it when I wrote it.
Here's oh right. Okay, so here's the question. Um, please ask Rod if he knows about the NAA, negative alien agenda, and its use of negative reversals and holographic implants using AI, matrix slash machinery.
That's what we've been fighting the whole time. Exactly what she described is who we've been fighting the whole time. That's Enlil's dogmatic doctrines in his scientific pursuits. He was a military general. He wasn't a scientist. But
Inky was a scientist, right? And
Inky was a geneticist. And, yep. But you had other scientists too. All that AI, that's a whole different branch of scientists. That was relegated to one of his sons. They call it AI. Not to be confused with Inky as Ea, EA. It's one of
EA.
Inky names.
Okay.
Aya is AIA. He's from Babylonia. He's the Babylonian scientist priest. And his job was to deal with things that cannot be seen with the naked eye, meaning nanoparticles.
I read
Artificial intelligence is named after him, by the way, his
wow,
initial.
AI. Wow. Yeah, I recently, like I said, looked at the American Horror Story season 10, episodes 7 through 10, when Sister Fariel, told me about it, and I looked at it, and it was just I was just amazed at how much, because I knew about a lot of this stuff, but to see it in that movie with the agenda with Eisenhower, the agreement that he allegedly signed to that they could take 5,000 Americans, humans, or whatever every year for research, and all of the things that were going on with Kennedy and Nixon and Marilyn Monroe and everything. They put it all in the movie. And I was like, well, how can we assume that this is fiction if they have real so-called historical figures and things that we know actually happened, and almost like you're giving the backstory of why these things did happen.
So Eisenhower's treaty with the aliens it's on file. When they used to give it out, they used to black out who he was communicating with.
Mhm.
But you can read it. It's one of the it's a treaty. Just 1957, go through the treaties. It's one of them. Valiant Thor stayed in the White House 3.5 years. Then he moved to the Pentagon, and he was in the Pentagon until the 90s. You
Yeah,
know,
they said that he was like 60 years, according to the show, 60 years. Doing whatever he was doing, and then only to find out that the
that
agenda was not to just save
that
them, but to take over this earth.
no, Valiant Thor is a Venusian.
Okay, so that's the feminine planet, right? Love.
Anytime they come to Earth, it's only to do what's in the greatest good for Earth itself, not even for the people, Earth itself. So whatever he was doing, whatever Valiant Thor was doing, if he stayed true to his Venusian roots, he's going to either be giving them um, technologies that clean energy technologies, clean energy weaponry, stuff like that, where it do the least amount of damage to the Earth itself. Right? Like he would come up with a weapon that might kill the flesh of the human, but it won't harm a tree.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Those are kind of things that they would use Valiant Thor for. But they would never put those type of weapons out because um, the destruction is not enough to wreak fear to the level that they needed. But yeah, so uh, when he was there, if you go back, Eisenhower gave a whole speech on the contract that he had signed with the military industrial complex. Those were Rumerian grays that was a warring species that he signed to get that information and to set up the military industrial complex. You want to hear something funny?
Sure.
The American government told the aliens, y'all violating the contracts and the treaties we signed. And the aliens bust out laughing and says, y'all never honored the treaty. We didn't expect y'all to honor ours. So it was signed in bad faith on both parts.
So yeah, 'cause they took far
Now,
more. Yeah.
right. Now, it's a funny story to me, but it also renders the agreement void from both sides because nobody entered the agreement in good faith.
But it continued.
That's because we haven't seized power yet. This is all part of this campaign. The Free Larry Hoover campaign is all part of us coming together to seize power.
So how do we free Larry and Larry Hoover and Angel Bay and Tukey Wilson
It's
Williams?
like just say like entertainment by popular demand. By popular demand, they're not supposed to move nowhere without hearing Free Larry Hoover. And Free Larry Hoover to us mean Free Chief Malik Angel Bay. Free Larry Hoover to us mean hands off Asada Shakur, bring her home. Free Larry Hoover to us mean Free Mumia Abu Jamal. Free Larry Hoover to us mean free Imam Jamal Alameen, formerly known as H. Rap Brown. Right? All this mean free all political prisoners. Free Larry Hoover mean that to us. It's the battle cry. They know when they hear that, the louder it get, the more they tremble. And it's getting pretty goddamn loud in their ears, and they can feel us breathing down their neck, but they said they ain't all woke up yet. There's not enough of them woke yet. We can drag it on a little bit more. Right? Free Larry Hoover mean raise the matriarchy and restore the land back to the people. That's what it mean to us as a battle cry. Free Larry Hoover mean that to get all of these pedophiles off the land with their pedophile cults. Right? Free Larry Hoover mean that all of the legal fictions operating in government capacity be banished from the land. All that free land Hoover mean all that to us. Free land Hoover mean restore our personal family banks like we used to have. All of us had a big mama who controlled the family bank. Right? So now we got to go back to teaching each other how to run family banks. We're gonna have seminars on that, on the turnaround, because the sisters got to know, and it's gonna be free. We accept donations, but we don't charge a fee. And you can come in for free whether you leave a donation or not. That's not as important as you being there to get the information. Right? So when we realize that Babylon fell, I said it 2 years ago and I'll say it today. This is a wrap. The people just need to become aware of it. This is all we're doing now at the grassroots level. The more of us become aware, the more they know that the gig is up. They running a masquerade show in front of us from Hollywood, Castle Rock Studios and shit, but they telling us that this is taking place in DC and ain't nobody in fucking DC. So while we sitting here, you know, bickering back and forth about linguistics, drop the words, drop all the language. You organic to the land is as simple as you can put it. Either you from the land or you ain't, and the land gonna tell on you if you ain't, because it's gonna suck your ass up. Right? And then it's gonna spit you out. So we not worried about that. We know where they at, we know how they operate, and we know what they done. They all got caught red-handed. Hand in the cookie jar. Right? They were so greedy they couldn't unball their fist to get their hand out the cookie jar. Don't that sound familiar?
It sort of it does. I mean, it's a lot of stuff going on, like I said, and I know for some it might seem like we're all over the place, but I'm trying to address questions, and they may not all be in the same vein, but we have brother Rod, aka Soft, with us, and so yes, get those questions out, and I'm going to try to address them so that the majority of the things that we want to know, we can at least get something to study. And he's not telling you to believe him 100. You don't have to believe him, but he's like, study for yourself, check it out for yourself. Go to his Facebook page where he does have many posts with receipts of things. And don't be don't be well. Today I'm letting you be who you want to be. I'm not even even the ones that are being in there being detractors and saying negative stuff. You have a right, you absolutely have a right. And but if you want, I will say this, that if you built a better mousetrap, then you need to have people over on your site so that they can get information you have that is more what you think more complete. You can do that. Nobody's stopping you. But we need to have a little conflict, I guess, in there, Rod, for it to make sense, because you're not looking for yes men and women. We're definitely not. But he's bringing the facts as he knows that to be. He's bringing what he knows. It's up to us to determine whether that it becomes our truth. And I see it as, as long as we're not doing anything about what they're doing, they're going to keep on playing the game. They're going to keep on playing the role. The whole thing is fiction. The whole thing is, we used to think that the movies were just the actors on the television that were in the movies. But now we realize over the last couple of years, Brother Rod, that the whole thing, the movies and politics have been in bed with each other, the media and all that, for the whole time. We thought they were separate, just like we thought the Democrats and the Republicans were two different parties when it's two sides of the same bird, So we thought. Now we have the truth, the knowledge that things are not as we thought. We know now what's been going on in the dark. and the light of truth is being shined in those areas heretofore where we weren't privy to, you know. So instead of us fighting each other, we need to fight, against the system that has fought against us for all of this time. And when I say fight, you telling us how to fight. You're saying don't keep, allowing ourselves to be party to what they're doing. Don't keep recontracting with them. Come together, find out who we are. What is our assignment? I said something to you, earlier today, and I appreciate you giving me that insight. I told you that when I was a child, remember, I said my uncle, he's my only living uncle. Well, no, he's not my only, he's my only living uncle on my mother's side. And he said he used to call me Ish Kadish. My name was Patricia, but my uncle called me Ish Kadish. And when I looked up Ish because I heard you saying something about nicknames and so forth. And so when I saw Ish, it went back to Ishtar and Anana, which for a while I called myself, I was calling myself Inanna El. And then I just said, I'm going back to Naila Gilliam El. But Ish and Ishtar and Anana are the same. And then what did you tell me? Kodash?
Kodesh, it's Arabic. It means holy.
Right.
He's calling you, yeah, he was calling you Holy Mother.
And I was a child.
He's
And I
seen the he's seen you carrying Big Mama energy back then, so he had to tag you. In the family, that's how they tag you to the family on the subconscious level. So all the elders in the family to know to keep a certain kind of eye on you based on what they tagged you as.
and that's wild, because I also know, and I never said this to you, but I've said it to some that have heard me before, that I realized that my maternal grandmother, who transitioned when my mother was 7, so obviously I wasn't here. I'm pretty sure that here she is back again. And my
Yep.
mother probably was so sure that I was, that when I got to be 33, I'm 34, we had to rejoice because my mother thought I was going to leave at 33 because her mother did. And I guess she recognized something in me when the people told her, we don't have pictures of your mother, but just look at your daughter. That's what your mother looked like, but your mother was lighter. And then she watched me and she worried that 33
That's
was.
how they tell you. That's how they tell her in modern terms under the language barrier that we under. See, if we were speaking in any of the original tongue, that would have translated totally different. When they told them to look at you and you see that they, because they telling her you her mama come back through her,
Well, we
right?
used to have conversations, and my mother and I would feel like I was being looked at by her as her mother, and I would say, "Who's the mother, you or me?" I mean, but I didn't know this then. But I know I said that to her on more than one occasion.
Because you want to teach her how to be a certain type of mother, you had to come back as her daughter to teach her.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
how that's how we can read our culture. No matter what culture overlay our culture is going to tell a different story no matter what story they tell. Our culture tell us that some people came here that looked like us, that wasn't us, masquerading as us. They brought some people that didn't look like us, passed them off as us, told us we came on slave ships and that we were slaves and that we never accomplished anything in life, so they can kill our self-esteem and make us surrender our land by being imbeciles and law at the close of the age. We gonna make them prove it because they gonna keep contracting with us even after we dead and gone. They gonna bring us back to life every time, a resurrected contract. And they swore up and down. This is how our culture read what's taking place. They swore up and down that not one of the chiefs will ever remember that he was from this land and that all of us would believe we came on them slave ships, right? So the culture is telling me wasn't no slave ships because my ancestors left it in the written word. We didn't see any ships. So the invader wrote it off as cognitive dissonance. So when I look at it, my ancestors said they didn't see no ships, and I can't find none to this day. Wasn't no goddamn slave ship.
Talk about Notre Dame.
Yeah, that's what. Okay, so when the popular picture
Let me see if
of
I brought that
the
up.
slave ship, the popular picture of the slave ship is an overlay for Notre Dame University. That's where they hatched the plot to use academia as the weapon of choice over here by enforced ignorance. That's where the whole plot was hatched. Oxford University is scrolling key.
Let me see if I can bring that up. So here we go. So that's the picture that we generally see with
Yep,
regard to
the slave ship.
right. But
Right. So there, it's an overlay for Notre Dame University.
And Notre Dame, was it 2 years ago or so, burned? It was hit by what? It was hit by something.
Well, the official story is it erupted in flames. That's the official story. It just decided to burn one day. The unofficial story is it got zapped by a baby ship so that they can bring it to my attention where the plot was hatched at. All I had to do was find the blueprint. The blueprint is the slave ship. So ain't nobody else gonna try to figure it out. So I might as well give it a try. So I did the layover and it matched perfect.
So you overlaid that picture that we've seen forever and ever with this, I call it the sardine picture, with people packed like sardines.
Yeah, perfect overlay for Notre Dame University. Matter of fact, it's posted on one of my Instagram pages.
It is. I just didn't bring up the other one. But that is amazing. So that's where the whole plot was hatched. So they were like, hey, it's shaped like a ship. Let's use this and just put bodies in it stacked and say that that's how they came over here. That's how we brought them here. It makes no sense to me at all that people could survive.
Well, it was a military application of academia.
So they wanted to see how far they can go with it, right?
Well, they wanted to conquer with it. But here's the problem. In the Galactic law, they got to give us the opportunity to discover what they're doing to us. But they don't have to tell us directly. They can use fact or fiction. They can cover it with many lies as they want to, long as they give us an opportunity to discover the deception and expose it to the public. And anytime we become competent to the point of exposing the full deception, and we successfully get the public to understand how they was deceived, that's when we reach critical mass to shift our power in our direction. It's all about getting the word out that this shit is over. And that the chiefs of the land and reclaim the land from the facto corporation that was parked here as an interim government. They gone. Now we moving to the position where we have to be aware that we have to tribe up and organize. Fortunately for us, we have people that have laid foundations of organization that we can benefit from, right? We can benefit from the presence of the FOI in our community, right?
Right.
We can benefit from the gang structures in our community if we use them like tribes. They used and weaponized us against each other. But all they did was made us pissed off seeing each other fall to the point where one of us gonna figure it out, and then we gonna unravel a puzzle.
And there is a movement underfoot, and I had Brother Dwayne Hendricks and some others on the program, I guess last year or at the end of the year or beginning of this year, talking about the Bloods and the Crips and the ones that are starting to come together to, for peaceful purposes. It's going on now as we speak.
But you got to remember, in the COINTELPRO, anytime they tried to establish a truth, the FBI used to dress up like a rival gang and start it all back up. Right? And all they is tribes. We just trying to live our life in peace and harmony like the next individual. With no big eyes and no little U's. You ain't better than me and I ain't better than you.
True.
You got a right to believe whatever you want under your own vine and fig tree. And you got a right to stay out the fuck of my business under my vine and fig tree. Right? If you respect mine, I respect yours. Mm-hmm. Anything detrimental to our people, we have to expose it and tear that shit apart. Even if it hurt our own feelings. Yeah. Like mine, when I found out the white man wasn't white. When I found out this is a chess game we playing. A fifth dimensional chess game. Shit, they know they in checkmate. They know they got this black knight looking right down their goddamn throat and there's nothing they can do about it. Right? So now they just try to drag it out and hope that the people never come to enough sensibility to each one teach one. Look up the stuff I'm saying. All this shit verifiable. This is not no top secret shit. It's just that it's not common that people would pay this close of attention. That's not common. When I was a little boy, they said if you want to hide something from a nigga, put it in a book. I said that's not. I must not be a nigga. Cause I'm gonna find it. I don't care if it's in the book. I got a knack for figuring shit out. My mama used to make me do puzzles when I was a baby. She was preloading me to put the puzzle together. Mm. Right? She used to purposely lose her keys and then send for me to come find them so she can preload me that I'm be looking in tight places for hard shit to find. Right? Mm-hmm. So I'm paying attention at 2 years old, but they don't know I'm paying attention. Right? So I crashed my intellect when I was 6. So they'll never know how smart I am. They got to figure it out. So they put me in special ed while I was in school. Told my mama, I don't know what's wrong with him. We don't think he's going to ever learn anything. Right? But I done dissected they Einstein, ripped apart they Stephen Hawkins. I done roto-rooted they motherfucking Nikola Tesla. All he did is mimic you. That's where his 369 frequency of the universe come from, the uterus. So, I know what I'm talking about. Or else I wouldn't be saying shit because I don't speak about shit I don't know. If I ain't sure, I won't mention it. And if you ask me about it before, I'm sure I ain't got no problem saying I don't know. But most of the questions you asked me, you later already asked myself, and I had to go find the answer because didn't nobody else have it.
Can you take another question?
Yep.
Yeah. From Veronica Ronnie. Can you expound on you are who your mother is? Hebrew Israelite teach you are who your father is.
Right. So this is 2 competing doctrines, patriarchy versus matriarchy. Remember, when Enlil made the move for the earth seat, there was no patriarchal right of heredity. Everything was passed through the motherline, all of the wealth. And if the matriarch is restored, it unlocks the wealth because it unlocks the motherline. So when the Hebrews, a patriarchal religion, is created specifically to undermine the divine feminine and tear down Big Mama house. When they push in the patriarchal agenda, they push in the counter agenda to oppose the matriarchal agenda of the original earth heredity. That's Enlil's law of heredity according to patriarchy.
So for under Inky, it stayed as it was the matriarchy, and
Yep, because Inky never trying to rule. Inky was a hedonist. And if you don't mind my French, he only really cared about three things: good food, good wine, and good pussy. He didn't care about nothing else. But Enlil want power. He was power hungry. He was selfish, self-centered, egotistical, want to make himself better than everybody else.
which one of them was the big head scientist, or was either of them the so-called?
That's the story of one of Enlil's sons, who was a scientist who was trying to compete with Thoth. So Thoth had to clean up his fuck ups.
So I mean, was his head really big, or was it just an ego tip thing? And they said he had a big head, meaning egotistically.
He had a pretty big head, but it was more his ego made his head look 10 times bigger than it was.
Wow. So let me see. Let me go back.
But when they was trying to keep Thoth from getting any power, they was trying to pass it to all Enlil kids. And Enki thought it was funny because he said sooner or later you're gonna have to give him a chance. And when you give him a chance, he gonna take over. And now his kids fuck shit up so bad they got to call me to get them out. Because they don't want to be here no more than we want them here. And so a lot of them look like us. They every shade from black and more to tawny more. They got odd textures of hair, just like we do as the earthborn. Right? But they use that as status symbols in their society. That wasn't status symbols in our society. The status symbol was based on personal character traits. That's how come you don't have no big eyes and no little you. Because we find value in what everybody's contribution is to the collective. They find value in exalting one above the rest. Different value systems compete. You can even see them competing in the neighborhood where some of the women will take one child and make them gold over the rest of them. Right? But then you got other sisters that treat them, nope. Your son gonna get the same ass whooping as mine when I catch him being bad. If you don't want him over here, don't bring him because he gonna get what my son get. We ain't gonna make no differences. So you got those sisters that follow in the culture, right? If me and your child together and they do something and I catch them first, I discipline them both. Takes a village to raise a child. They don't believe in that shit. They believe my mama and my daddy the only one could tell me something. And I call my mama to beat you up if you say something. That's how they rear their children. That's what they believe in. That's normal to them. And that's why it plays out in the white privileged society. Because they have to show us the errors that's taking place so we can correct them when we get back in control. Everybody is doing their part, but they don't know they're doing it.
Wow. Well, okay, here's an interesting comment, especially since we just talked about this. Um, Isis is Ishtar or Inanna, who they call whore of Babylon.
They disgrace all of the divine feminine goddesses, right? And Ishtar is one of the ones that was known as the goddess of Babylon. And they disgraced her and called her a whore. So it sounds pretty consistent with the story.
Same thing like with Mary Magdalene, the Magdalene.
Look, when every time you see Mary, instantly translated as a rebellious woman. Mary of Magdalene was Mary the Magdala, or the creator. She
Okay.
was a rebellious woman who was a creator, right? Her manifestations was rapid. She had mastered her lower nature, and only her highest goodness can shine through as creative energy, right? So they got to make her into a whore in order for you not to even give a shit about her backstory or even look into the meaning of her name,
Mhm.
right? So all of the goddesses was replaced under Enlil with some masculine gender. The pharaohs wasn't the men, the pharaohs was the women. The men were the um, imam, so to speak, of the royal house. He went and addressed the public according to royal matters. All of the political willings and dealings is done in the back by the women. That's the power base. The smartest thing to do is set up a council of elders, right? You go
Mhm.
to find those who have put in the work, done the suffering for the clarification of the wisdom. Because by all that suffering, all it's doing is polishing your wisdom lenses. Instead of coals, now you got diamond eyes, angel eyes, what they call it, because you can see through the prism of the prison. You can see the full details of what's going on, not just the surface of it, right? You're looking at things from a holographic angle, which is closer to holistic than looking at it from a linear, which is tied to logic. So when your mother brain kick in, your abstract right brain, your anterior gyrus light up, and your pituitary gland starts to receive third eye vision, right? When you know what your body is capable of and how it works, it increases your ability to use it. So I tell you that your pineal gland, it gets a magnifier through your anterior gyrus. You look up anterior gyrus and you find out it's a part of the brain. It's the receiver of any and all spiritual information. Your direct link to the superconscious, the universal mind. So now you can control your downloads by focusing on certain parts of the brain and activating them at will instead of letting them just happen when they happen, which disrupts your life.
Mhm.
You're going to get the download, but it might come at an inopportune time because you don't want to listen. That's why we meditate, train ourselves to listen. Everybody's so busy praying, which is talking, you don't even know what the answer is. You still asking for the same shit. You got to wait for an answer. And the answer come in the form of the feeling. You know that you got it when you feel like, oh, I got it.
Wow. Here's a question from Skyheart. They ask Rod, what do dreams mean? I mean, you have different. I guess it means just the fact that we dream because you cannot interpret everybody's separate dream. the dream state itself, I guess. I'm assuming.
And you might want to know the purpose of dreams, because dreams serves multiple purposes.
Yeah. Okay.
One is it allows the brain time to organize the information. As it's organized, the information is playing out as a set of images in your mind called a dream. That's one kind of dream. Another kind of dream is where you're getting spiritual messages because your family line are the ones who get spirit messages through dreams. You're more likely to have this experience. These dreams seem more realer than your 3D life while you in them. It's more clearer. Everything is, you know, um, crisper. But when you get here, everything is kind of hazy in comparison. And when you wake up, you find yourself saying like, that was more real than real, right? You're making spiritual journeys. You might be going down other timelines to examine what yourself is doing in another timeline, or you may be determining, um, or you might be attending a spiritual class where you have to do certain deeds in the dream realm as a training tool for something you're going to do in the physical, right? So all of the dreams that serve different purposes, but we used to be able to do this wide awake before they crashed the fourth dimension into the third. It condensed our energy and turned off a lot of our DNA.
Mm. Well, I'm gonna go with one more question, and it says there was a question about a statement that Easter Island statues had the fez, and I guess they're challenging the whatever you said about you know they're saying the Easter Island statues had on fezzes.
Those are not facts. But he can believe that if he wants to. He got a right to believe that.
Okay, so they were some kind of headdress, but not a fez. You're saying
Yeah. But he didn't mean Easter Island. He meant the Olmecs
okay?
because they have something that looks similar to a fez, but it's not a fez.
Okay, wow. Well, listen. Um, we have been on here for about 2.5 hours. We can go. I'm gonna go to. I'm gonna go for. Yeah, we go. We're gonna go. Yeah, see if there are any more questions, so we can get to 3 hours. So that any question. And look, I'm not gonna ask questions, y'all. That ask to pit what he thinks about other people, other teachers teaching. I'm not going to ask those questions. So you can stop putting that one in, those in there, because some things folks put in there because they just want to start some ish, and we're not doing that. So whether he's listening to him or not, you can ask him on his platform. But um, let me just ask, see if there's any more things here, and if anything. Um, that you just want to add in these last 20 minutes or so, Brother Rod? Hey, I want you to just share with us.
Um, you done with the questions?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm looking at some things that aren't, don't, I'm not even going to pull up, but, yeah, yeah. I'm just looking. On point, take notes. Are we talking about only in North America and talking about the international treaties? Someone is asking, are we talking about the entire continent only in North America? Can you talk about the international treaties?
The international treaties with who? Because right now we be concerned with us getting our shit back over here first. But the corporate United States, they ain't never honored none of their treaties. They didn't violated them all.
Hmm.
And they was already in what we call acting under the color of law to begin with. They was an illegitimate and fictitious system. So everything they done was illegitimate and fictitious.
Hmm.
It's only in their paperwork that it has any power. And then they enforce their paperwork, right? We got to become aware of who we are to the point where we don't need a term to define who we are. We know that we from the earth and we've already been here. We come on no goddamn ships.
So, did we come on skyships at some point?
We are here through projections of our creative collective. And what happens is we condensed a environment that we call the universe as a collective. And we get to do this with other guys doing it in other places as well, right? So when we do them in clusters, we call them galaxies, which is a whole bunch of gods governing over their creation, right? And we become aspects of ourselves in order to manifest the creation. The creation we in now, the design is a Metatron's cube, right? Using our creative collective projection of what we call the mastermind group. Tomorrow not here, we got to create it. That's
Wow.
why we can't get there no faster. That's
Is
why
it
time is the
okay?
illusion.
Like every step, I've seen things where the person, the being is making a step, and as they step out, then the next place to step their foot comes up, but it's not
Yeah,
there until they make this
yeah,
the
yeah, exactly. Tomorrow's not here until we get done creating it. The whole creation is a projection of our collective unconscious. Working together in the conscious world, we come in to look for the flaws, the defects to fix. It just so happened it's just like a disease. Somebody came from somewhere else that didn't belong here and superimposed their creative system onto our creative system, and then tried to take over ours in what they call host capacity.
Hmm.
A lot of that complicated unless you understand sci-fi, because sci-fi do all kinds of space shows to show you how it works, right?
Hmm.
So you can get more truthful information out of a sci-fi movie than you can from a documentary.
I believe that. Sorry, y'all. I had to mute myself for the noise coming down, outside. It was loud. Um, we got it here on the. Let me see. Somebody wanted to know what's the real reason for them pushing the. I'm gonna call it the jungle juice.
Look,
But I
look
was.
at look, just look at how events played out, right?
Mm-hmm,
They said it was a surprise. Nobody seen it coming, right?
mm-hmm.
But why did they push the relief bill a whole year before it ever happened?
Mm-hmm.
right? So that means this foresight is going to happen. So they know it's going to happen. What is the effect it's going to have? Because whatever happens, it has to have an effect, a desired effect. So then you now it's hindsight. It's 2020. Shut everything down. It's only two people in the history of the world had that kind of power: God and the devil. So now they letting you know that's the proverbial turning on the global light switch. Wake up, Earthlings. We here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now we become ignorant to it, and looking at it in hindsight, you can see all of the things that was able to take place under the cloak
Of that,
of the narrative.
in darkness, that yeah, this is what was really going on.
Right. So while they running that narrative in the mainstream, right, David Copperfield making the elephant disappear right next to you. You
You know,
really couldn't see what happened with the elephant because you was focused on the story they telling in the mainstream. So now you amazed because you can't figure out where it went.
that's interesting that you say that. I missed it, but I saw a question or comment down here that I can't find. So I would like to put it up. But the sister said something to the extent that she wanted to know why the great mother showed her an elephant and told her to follow the elephant.
She a matriarch and she's being told to follow the march of the matriarch. Big Mama telling them to tribe up. She's telling them, go where I send you. You'll feel it. Don't ask questions, just go. And they following the instruction and they don't know why I gotta move, but I'm moving to Houston next week. And I don't know why I gotta move, but I decided I'm gonna move to New York next week. I'm gonna move to New Jersey in a month. They on the move, but they don't know why they moving. Everybody gotta go to their homeland. The land got to call you back where you belong at the close of the age. That's why I say if you ain't from the land, it's gonna tell on you.
So Sister Flame says, should we, and since I see it popped up, should we rescind our UCC financing statements?
Abandon it. Abandon it.
Why should they do that? Because that has put themselves in a.
Right, because they didn't know that they didn't know they were contracting to a fraud. Contracting to a fraud. When
So
you don't know it, when you don't know it in law, you have to abandon it.
how do you do that?
Disregard, act like you never did it. Walk away from it. Abandon it. It become unenforceable on either end at that point
Without doing anything?
against you. Right. It's called the abandonment defense. When you discovered you was being held party to a criminal action, you abandoned the action. Viable defense in any court of law.
Okay. So somebody says that the southern border is wide open and not closed. Okay. I thought it was okay. Just kind of flipping through. You all have been fairly wonderful. The the listening audience appreciate you for the most part. Y'all know who you are. Some of you've been trying to create some stuff, but you know we need the good and the bad, and we can throw it all together. But it said, "Let the wheat and the tare grow together," because you start, like you said, even some of the tare. I don't know if it stays tare, it'll be exposed when the harvest comes.
Yeah.
So you want to be on the right side of the harvest. So have your
Well,
questions, have doubts. Yeah.
the minister did a lecture on the wheat and the tear. Why you have to wait till they get grown? Because when they babies, they almost look
They
exactly
look
alike.
identical. Yeah. I
So
appreciate
you gotta let them mature so you can pull up the chaff out of the wheat without disturbing the wheat.
Right. Right. This question for Rod: does this information apply to blacks living in Canada? Blacks living. That's what they're asking.
I don't know what she mean by blacks, but I'm gonna assume she meaning
She or
the
he? I don't know if it's a she or a he.
well he or she. I don't know if they referring to organic people from the land,
I think that's
but
what they mean.
we go all the way across the land. Wherever we at, that's where we at.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Well, all right. I'm saying something about bringing.
Look, in our blood is iron, right? Our DNA is loaded with data. The earth has something called an electromagnetic grid. Birds follow the migration pattern that they driven by the electromagnetic grid vibrating frequencies, right? There's certain frequencies that vibrate through the earth that tell us where we're supposed to be at any given time of our life. Now, we can go with the spirit of the earth or we can go against it. It's our free will. But it's always a notification when you not following your chosen path and you about to make an error, right? Biblically, they call it a self-accusing spirit. In psychology, they call it your conscience, right? In the Magi, they call it your holy guardian angel, your higher self. But you come in with a set of instructions of what to correct on earth as a creator God. You have to know how to follow the path to get the training in order to perform the function. You can't perform the function when you don't know how the function go. You can't tell the people how to get free if you don't know where to trap at. Blind leading the blind. They both end up in a ditch. So you tell the people clearly where to find it at. Then it's up to them to do their due diligence before they dispute. Because you dispute before you know, that's called presumption of knowledge. You presume to know, which is worse than not knowing at all. Because then you mislead. When you mislead, you lead people astray by accident. But it's your fault because you wanted the guts and glory, but you didn't want to put in the work to be worthy. And then when you see somebody that put in the work to get worthy, you get frustrated and jealous because you think that they just popped up out of nowhere. Never knowing that I've been studying my whole life for this shit, right?
Mm.
Because I didn't even know why I was studying like a mad runaway college student with a whole bottle of what's that stuff they use? Ritalin,
Mhm.
right? I didn't know why I was studying like that. I got a job. I worked 8, 12 hours a day studying at work. Because I figured out if they gonna have some of my time, I gotta have some of it too. If they're not gonna pay me what I'm worth in dollars, they gotta give it to me in education. And I write my own curriculum. They put me in prison. You know what I did? Read everything they had in their library and their law library. I ain't know why I was doing it at the time. Now I know.
Mm.
Big Mama sent me on a mission. So whatever it takes. Nothing personal, it's just business. More specifically, it's just family business. I'm just here for the family, the whole, all of the clans, the extended family. Firstborn of the earthborn. Big brother back to take it all back. You can either be with the progress or you can go ahead and continue to struggle. The choice is yours. Ain't nobody making nobody believe nothing nobody say.
Yeah.
We past trying to wake motherfuckers up now. We at the point now where you can take it or leave it, accept it or don't. I'm gonna tell you how it is. I ain't gonna tell you how you want it to be, right? I'm gonna point out the deception. It don't mean that some of the best of us wasn't deceived at some point, right? Because they think that only some people can be deceived while they in the middle of a deception. So you can't follow the dogma. You got to follow the moral code. Moral code is simple: do right, be right, and stay right.
Right.
That's it.
There's a question
Six
here.
equal ways. Yep.
Yeah, there's a question here. It popped up a couple times. Ask, can you ask Rod financially? Are we to create our own businesses and leave all jobs? What is Rod's position on one supporting themselves and family?
Okay. For the transitional phase, we have to form cohesive units. This is part of tribing up because you got to know who can help where and with what, right? If you can do business without doing any tax forms, right? So those are contracts with the defunct corporation, right? So some people would be so anxious to get a tax return, never knowing that they validating the invalid system. And the only people who can validate it is us. We the ones who belong here. It ain't that we don't mind other people being here, but they're not gonna keep being here at our expense. Cause I'm the elder now. So as one of the elders, I got to speak up and will tell y'all what I know to be true. So you make cohesive units as best you can. We're gonna have a temporary bump, but then on the flip side, when we see the three kings on the land, then we're gonna have resources available that we won't have available in the interim, right? So that's why we advise the pooling of resources with the capable to help the ones that's less capable until we get in a position to help more people.
So are you saying yes that those that are working for the corporation, so the corporate structure should begin to
Oh,
phase it out?
you know my motto, Miss G. Fuck a job.
Well, yeah.
I think that all the corporations should be owned by the people that work there.
Mm.
They should be part of the investor group, not the investor group, the stakeholders.
Hmm.
The workers should have a sizable portion of the company, a stakeholder. You shouldn't work for a check because you're gonna get cheated every time.
Mm.
But in the meantime, we have to figure out an alternative avenue. Start planting this spring.
Yeah. And there were some questions too about chemtrails and what that's doing. I mean, I always see us as you think in terms of summer's coming, ants come in, different things, and we spraying for ants and whatever else, fruit flies, roaches, whatever you're spraying for. They treat us the same way. They're spraying, and we want to get rid of them, and they want to get rid of us.
Look, Dr. G,
Yes.
all GMO food producing facilities must be destroyed. This is something I said 2 years ago. All that stuff that's toxic to the body that they feeding us, they destroying all of those facilities now, which is going to give an artificial food shortage.
Mm.
And on the turnaround, we can then offer what's been being reserved for the crisis that's organically grown. But all of that GMO shit gotta go. The planes that was putting the chemtrails up there, Donald Trump downed those. Now what you seeing is what you call counter chemtrails. We got to clean that shit out the atmosphere now.
So you're saying these are counter.
Yeah. That shit got to get cleaned up. They ain't got to tell you they doing it because you can see the plane. You don't have to know that they went from chemtrails to chemtrail cleanup.
I hope that's what's going on. I certainly do.
That better be what's going on, and somebody gonna have a head roll.
Well, there's a question also here for you to, if you could speak more on what you were saying about the Mississippian or the Mississippi, what that stood. I guess that's what it stands for. I said Mississippian.
Hmm. Yeah, that was um Miss Isis on pie. But the Mississippian clans are mound builders.
Mm-hmm.
They were the tribes that normally occupied from like Texas through Louisiana, coming up through the Mississippi Basin, all the way into Canada. That was the Mississippian tribe conglomerate, right? So we was all sending people to fight in the Seminole Wars, and we stopped by Big Mama house and leave whole families of kids. But we ain't know that when we left, somebody was killing off Big Mama, telling us that we were slaves.
Wow.
The big house used to be called Big Mama House, so they took Mama name out of it.
Wow.
Then they got us thinking that they built these elaborate houses.
Plantations and state
Yeah,
estates and so
yeah.
forth.
They weren't plantations at first. They was just Big Mama House. And all us kids used to grow up going to Big Mama House to help from the city, from the country. It didn't matter. We went to Big Mama house. We helped her harvest the vegetables. She divided it up among the families and sent everybody home with something, right? And we used to be part of our rites of passage to go to Big Mama house. And we used to love to go to her house because she used to have things of fried chicken on the counter and blocks of cornbread covered with a towel and a bowl. That's how they did back then. Until the invaders came. Now they got the whole story twisted. Like we just popped up on some slave ships, dumb as hell. They taught us to be dumb. And we the best students. So we gonna master that shit to be the dumbest motherfuckers you ever want to teach to be dumb. On purpose. Just because we good students. We study everything.
So here's a question. Can Brother Rob please explain why international law equates a nation to a people with a common ancestry, culture, and territory, while a tribe is only a social and political group?
Let me see if I can read that.
It says, why international law equates a nation to a people with a common ancestry, culture, and territory, while a tribe is only a social and political group.
Because nations is what colonizers use to settle over tribal peoples and crush indigenous culture. That's why.
And to
All
make it,
nations are corporations. All nations are under uniform commercial code. Period. They use nations to crush out tribal confederations and local community activities. They need to control you as much as possible. That's why that's there. Now, the statement's not wrong. That's true. But it's there for a reason. And the reason is because the colonizer need that clause in the Uniform Commercial Code in order to colonize. Everywhere he colonized, he had to establish a corporate nation. And the only way his corporate nation can stand on your land is if you become part and party to the corporate structure. adhesion contracts. They can use trickery and deception. Ancient code of thieves.
Hmm. Yeah, somebody wants to know why you call yourself Thoth.
I don't call myself Thoth. I call myself Dr. Rod, the Walking University. I call myself Morpheus Mysticus Magus. Thoth is who I am. That ain't the name I use.
All right. All right. Wow. Um, if I did, yeah. So I just want to say that I don't know. Let me see. Why do yes, somebody want to know, why do Mexicans have so much contempt for us?
I ain't mad at them, first and foremost. First and foremost. Second, you got Mexicans that look just like me and you, Doc.
Mhm.
Been there the whole time. They not new there. They didn't get colonized. They didn't go there with the colonizers. The reason why the Mexicans is angry with us is because we ain't kicked these some bitches off our land yet. We the only ones with the right to do it.
Mhm.
And they know the same thing I know. They came over, called themselves conquistadors. The conquistadors is Tudor conquerors. That's the Tudors royal family or Etruscan Moor. They ain't native to nowhere on the planet. Everywhere they go, they cause mischief and bloodshed. They go in the midst of the peaceful people, set one against the other, then they offer them a solution for a fee. And once they implement their solution, they leave with all of the wealth of the two warring tribes. We can either stop falling for it and stand up together in unison, or we can join sides with the enemy and get kicked off the land. Those are the only two choices we got. Know who you are. Know your birthright. It's written in your blood. You don't need nobody to tell you. Stop taking sides with dogmatic pursuits called religions. Anything dressed in a religious uniform need to be stripped down to its barest essentials so you can see what you're really dealing with. Because some of them under dresses is men and some of them under skirts ain't women,
Mm.
right? But when you strip it down to its barest essentials, you can see who's who and what's what by birthright. And anything that's been altered won't be able to last long here anyway.
Well, listen, before we go, there's questions about your social media links. I know you do have a Facebook page. You do have a YouTube channel also.
Though I just got people loading my videos up on YouTube.
Oh,
I
okay.
just told them because I couldn't manage all of my accounts. So I just told them for YouTube right now, put up, whatever y'all think the people need to hear the most, put it on your platform.
So they just um, check for your name, Rod Hayes, like I do, then
Yeah,
wherever you are shows up. But you do have a Facebook page, Rod
yeah,
Hayes.
yeah. So you can just follow me on Facebook because I think my friend limit is at its max with a lot of people waiting still.
And you
So
put
just
up
push
a
the
lot of posts. Yeah,
yeah,
just go to
yeah,
look up Rod Hayes on Facebook.
yeah. And then you can you just push the follow button. And then you can find me on Instagram, Rod uh Hayes.75 or Morpheus Mysticus Megas. That's my two Instagram accounts.
Morpheus
Right.
Mysticus.
So the link to that one is at the top of the Rod Hayes page.
Okay, there you go.
So if you go to the home page and you go to the top, it'll be right there in blue. And you click on that. That's where most of the videos is because when they put me on punishment on Rod Hayes, I do my videos on my Morpheus page because they like to put me on restriction a lot.
wonder why.
I'm too mischievous. I refuse to be a good Negro.
Well, I appreciate you, and I appreciate the fact that you're honest, open, and you shoot straight from the hip, straight, no chaser, and we can't please everybody, but hey, a lot of folks are happy, including myself, that you are in knowing who you are, that you know yourself, and that you're doing your assignment. I'm certainly happy, and this won't be the last time.
No,
um,
I appreciate you, Dr. G. I appreciate you inviting me on, trying to get the people to understand what's going on. Hopefully, I gave them enough to go look and see that this dog and pony show is over when they share the information.
mhm.
That's the only way to stop the foolishness and shenanigans from dragging on,
Right. Yes. Yes.
right? Because it's all based on awareness. It ain't based on nothing else.
Right. And like I said, I thank you. I thank you all. We we have Yeah. I thank you all. For I know I didn't get to all your questions, and I do select questions that I think are relative for the majority. I try, and I don't get to everyone, and I just it's impossible if you see how many questions are scrolling up, and some of you will write the same question like 20 times, and I still might not read it, only because, in my opinion, as the host of this show, that may not be a question that is as relevant as the questioner thinks it is to the whole. So please don't take it personal. Um, but that's just the way I do it. So, Brother Rod, again, thank you. And I'm happy that if I have any more questions, I can always, give you a shout out, give you a
Oh
call,
yeah.
and
Mhm.
you're real people. And I appreciate that. I absolutely appreciate who you are. So until
All
next
right.
time, and y'all be good. Of course, I'm gonna go out with my little commercial. I wait till the very end. And it's funny because every time I put it together, it's like in pieces, and I'm trying to click this and this and this, and it doesn't always make sense to me. But y'all are those who see it and believe that it might be something that helps you. Thank you for your orders, and thank you especially for your repeat orders, because then I know that you really do, like the stuff. So I will be back on this Friday with not with Grand Chic, but with a special guest on this Friday at 7:30. We have Grand Chic is on a much deserved and much needed vacation this week. So I'm happy that he was able to get away. But we will have a civics class this Friday. So thank you all, and till this Friday rather. And thank you from the bottom of my heart. And you see that Cash App, like I said, Brother Rod doesn't ask for anything, but I think it's only right. I mean, he's everywhere pouring out this knowledge and putting himself at risk to a certain extent because of the level of information that he shares. So, it's over 1,000. It's not now, but it was over like almost close to 1,100 in the on the live. Whatever you stand, it will be appreciated. I am sure. Whatever he's not doing it for it, but the servant is worthy, worthy of his hire. So again, thank you so much, brother Rod.
All right. Thank you, Dr. G.
All right. So let me put this thing together over here. All right. Right. Y'all, again, thank you so much. Thank you for being a great group. Like, totally appreciate you as we go out.
Dr. G, inviting you to get your Chokeberry Plus today. It is that amazing berry, high in antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, antiviral properties. It supports and balances the blood pressure, the blood sugar, weight, and cholesterol. Yes, you can get a 2-month supply today by texting CB3L to 3450500. That's CB3L to 302-345-0500. Get on the path to wellness today. You'll be glad you did.
Really? Oh shit. Yeah, that's me. Dr. G. 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 Really? Oh shit. Yeah, that's me.